We are back on the road to City Hall, and while the race for city controller may not be getting top billing in this year, it certainly is getting its share of the headlines. This morning, Eliot Spitzer was mobbed by the media after he courted the support of Chinese-American voters. Meanwhile, Scott Stringer picked up the support of not one but three former controllers in his bid to become our city's next chief financial officer. Former city controller Harrison Golden was among those who endorsed Stringer, and he joins us now to talk more about that race as one of our guest New York One Wise guys, along with guest wise gal, former Lieutenant Governor Betsy McCoy, and former Senator Alphonse D'Amato. Great to see all of you. And let me start with you, Mr. Controller. Thanks for coming in.
Delighted.
What makes Scott Stringer your choice for your old job?
Well, I've known Scott Stringer since the beginning of his career. He's a hard-working, intelligent, diligent person. He's got the temperament for the job. He understands that the controller needs to be independent, but that the controller doesn't need to go to war with the financial community. That the controller has to assure that the city's dollars are being spent appropriately and properly. He's got to be able to audit, and Scott Stringer has some very good ideas for that. And so I think he's going to be a very good controller, and that's why I'm endorsing him.
Did you consider yourself an activist investor when you were controller?
Well, most people considered me an activist investor. I began the process of mobilizing other controllers around the country, treasurers around the country, to initiate the corporate governance movement in America. We created something called the Council of Institutional Investors, which I remain a chair emeritus, whose purpose it was to democratize American corporations, make them more responsible to shareholders. We initiated an anti-discrimination program against Catholics in Northern Ireland who were being discriminated against by American companies, and we initiated a program to end that. We were active in the program to end apartheid in South Africa. We were active, helped to initiate the program to impel American pharmaceutical companies not to sell adulterated infant formula.
Yeah, the infant formula.
Yeah,
I remember that against Nestle's, right?
Mine, yes.
Well, it sounds like you were going to war with Wall Street.
That wasn't Wall Street, you know. And our objective was to democratize the process. It wasn't to go to war. You know, Wall Street remains one of the economic drivers of New York. Lots of New Yorkers depend on the financial community for their employment. So it takes a delicate balance and judgment and the right temperament, both to remain independent and vigilant, and yet to recognize the importance of that industry to the economy of the city.
Amen. 29% of taxes on wages in New York City are derived from Wall Street, so we can't go to war with Wall Street.
I mean, but, you know, I look at Eliot Spitzer's financial disclosure. I mean, he and his family, they own a lot of real estate. I mean, they're deeply invested in this city. It's not a serious concern that he would actually...
Eliot Spitzer is the only candidate who is totally unqualified to be controller, and it's not his dalliances as client number 9 with hookers. It's because when he was Attorney General of New York State, he abused his power and went after people, ruined their lives or tried to ruin their lives, and then never got convictions against them. He even targeted people like Ken Langone and John Whitehead, threatening them, people who have unimpeachable characters and histories in business. And that, to me, is what disqualifies Eliot Spitzer more than his association with the sexual misconduct. It's that he, as Attorney General, he did not behave the way someone with power and responsibility should behave.
I mean, not to relitigate it, but you don't think that the head of the stock exchange, a nonprofit corporation, no one should have asked any questions about him getting the kind of compensation he got?
Of course, I think questions should be asked, but that wasn't the point. He really tried people in public. He was sensationalist about it. He was threatening about it. And to that extent, he was irresponsible, and he didn't succeed in getting convictions against many of these people. And that in itself is proof that he went overboard. And to call himself now the sheriff of Wall Street, and he's doing it again, I don't want to see him do it again.
A divisive figure, which can cut both ways in a campaign, right?
Well, look, this will be a campaign where the former governor and Attorney General Eliot Spitzer puts forth his resume and claims to have done a good job as the sheriff of Wall Street. There are those who say he was overzealous, that he was looking not too dissimilar from others who held prosecutorial positions to make a reputation on that and did not care whether or not the person was guilty or innocent. So that will be the battle. The battle cry will be, was he overzealous? Did he care more about himself? Or is this a person who we can look for to protect the interest of the public? And I think Harrison Golden, former comptroller, has pointed out something that's important, and so has Betsy. We really want to see that there is a person of moderation, of good judgment, because we don't want to unnecessarily attack an industry that is important to our economy. We want to see that they meet proper standards, that there's not the kind of hiding information or inside trading, etc. But we don't want to have someone who will destroy an industry that is important to us, because today those industries can move. They can move to Connecticut. They don't have to operate out of Wall Street. So it's important we have a balance.
That's right. And let me just point out that there is another candidate in the race on the Republican side, John Burnett, and he deserves some attention too, because he's had extensive experience with auditing and with finance, and he has very little name recognition. That's always a problem in politics, but he has a resume.
Well, and I mean, obviously his path to victory partly involves maybe having the two Democrats kill each other off, at which point, sometime after the primary, he'll sort of step up and reintroduce himself to the public.